Well, we would like to welcome you to the first Google Everything user group for the Lower Hudson Regional Information Center. We're here with 75 of our closest friends and colleagues, and we just heard an amazing story from Queensbury Schools on their 4-year implementation with Google. And we joked about when we first got into this game, there was no one at Google. So it's so nice to have a face, and you've been a great partner to the RIC so far. So I'm just going to turn this over to you to talk. I know you've started a group that everybody can have access to, so I'll just let you start. I think a lot of this will be Q&A, but you've got some things to say up front, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
Thank you, Stephen.
So my name is I'm the England manager for Google Education for New York. And I've been on the Google team for about 4 years, actually. Started off in California doing outdoor education, mainly with higher education institutions, moved on to K-12. And since we've seen the explosion of Google products across districts and across the country, across the world, with Chromebooks and Android tablets and outdoor education, we've expanded our teams to be more regional. So now I sit in New York City, work very closely with all the school districts kind of in the area. So I did have kind of some things that I threw into the document that I thought you guys might find helpful. Security and privacy, FAQ. I know security and privacy is a big concern for school districts, and granted, that makes sense. Just a few things I want to clarify right off the bat. So our contract is very explicit that we don't own any of your data. We don't use any of your data for any advertising purposes, and we want to make sure that you know that. So as you look through our security and privacy FAQ and as you look through our contract, we want to make sure it's clear that you own your data and Google is not doing anything malicious with your data. Not only are we saying that, but we write that in our contract. The second thing I want to point out that I know is a big topic in everybody's mind is park testing and testing that's coming over the next couple of years, or online assessments. So we do have a lot of resources with that. We are working very closely with Park to make sure that the Chromebooks are going to be park testing enabled. There's actually going to be a webinar tomorrow explaining more specifically what's going to. So if you look in the document under my name, so there's kind of the webinar. You can register for the webinar. You can sign up there. So I guess I just wanted to end with, before we go into Q&A, that I'm really here to act as a resource for you all. So as you're going out to schools, as you guys are working in your school districts, finding the best ways for technology, I'm really here to act as a consultant and make sure that I'm supporting you with the resources that you need, with the things that are coming out. And there are plenty of really cool products that are coming out. So not only new Chromebook devices, new touchscreen devices, new possible desktop, Chromebooks. There are also a wealth of things happening in the Android space, the tablet space. So Android for Education is available. The Play for Education store is available. I'm not sure how much you guys know about that, but essentially the Play for Education store is a curated app store for Android tablets that's curated by educators. So it's really easy for you to go into the Play for Education store, find content that you want, and then push that out to your students, push that out to your teachers, all through the same control panel. In addition, you get the same management features that you get through Chromebooks. So there's an Android management console in your App Store Education console that you can get a license for. And we can kind of do a separate deep dive into Android for Education at a later time if that's of interest to people. But please do join that group. I continue to send information through the BOCES group, and I'll post that in the document as well. So let's get into some questions. What are kind of some thoughts on people's minds that they'd love to kind of get answered? And I think you guys are on mute, so I can't actually hear anything.
I know, we're going to repeat the questions back.
Okay.
Stephen, you mentioned that the districts will own the data, but do you share the data?
So you mentioned the districts own the data, but do you share the data?
What do you mean do we share? So we don't share. We don't share with to use, but for instance, if you document with then we would share the
Okay, it's like the audio is a little fuzzy. I don't know whose end it's on. I'm hardwired, so I don't. You keep like getting a little bit fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
So could you just try repeating it and we'll see if we could hear you?
Right. So it depends on what I share. So we don't share with any advertisers. We don't share with any parties. But if you were to open up a doc and then share a party, we would then data because you allow us.
Hold on. I will, hold on, Stephen. Just keep talking. I'm going to invite myself and do it over Wi-Fi and see if that works. Just keep going.
So I don't know if everyone heard that, but they don't share it with commercial partners. They don't share it with advertisers at third party. But if you share, yes, that's what you're saying, right? They don't stop you from sharing. Is that what I meant?
Shaking his head.
Oh, he's shaking his head. Yeah. Okay. Sign language. I think we have a follow-up to that question. As long as you can hear me, Stephen, I'll get that to you so you can think about your response.
Do you have a FERPA policy statement of how you align to FERPA guidelines?
Do you have a FERPA policy statement and how you align to FERPA?
Absolutely. In our education, once again, share the education but the agreement states that.
Hold on, I'm switching.
So the audio is still not working, Stephen, so let's give us a second while we switch over to...
I think it's the hardwire. I'm going to mute the microphone. Just try speaking.
Hello? Is everybody in the Google document? Can I get a show of, like a nod, if everybody's in the Google document?
Yes.
Are we in the Google document? Yes?
Sorry, but
Yes.
I could hear you a little bit better when it's muted, so I'll just
right.
mute it when we want to speak. When
So
you want to
maybe we can just type the answers. Does that work? That way we're nice and clear and everybody knows kind of what I'm saying.
Sorry.
Okay, so you're gonna. So I don't know how to mediate this if he's typing it because I can't see it. Okay, so the answer. Did we get the answer to the FERPA question, Mike? Can you repeat? So we're mute. Can you repeat the answer to the FERPA question, Stephen? One more time.
So we are a school official under FERPA, so we are covered under FERPA.
Thank you. Other questions for Stephen? Anything? Anything from the RIC team? James?
They've opened Google Play for education. Is there any from store for education?
Did you get it? So, Stephen, you've opened Play for Education. Are you going to open a Chrome store for education?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if we are. That being said, there are plenty of education applications already in the web store for Chrome. And because Chrome is a much broader platform, it doesn't really need to be as curated as kind of the Play Store. So I'm not sure that's kind of the movement where we're going. Where we are going is we're actually going to try to make the Play Store and the Chrome Web Store more of the same store so that you don't have to go to two different places to look for content. So our end goal is to make it much easier for educators and technology to find content both through the Play Store and the Web Store. So you might see more of a convergence over the next couple months. Did anyone hear any of that?
Yes, we did.
We heard it. When we mute, we can hear it well.
Nice.
We have a question over here, Patrice.
Play for education, does it work on all devices, or is it? I'm confused by that. Does it work on the Chromebooks?
So can you clarify for us Play for Education and what devices it works on?
So Play for Education only works on Android devices that are running KitKat. So the latest version of the Android devices, and I can send more information. I'll put more information in the document for what Play for Education is, what the Play tablets are, but they do not work on Chromebooks. So the Chrome operating system and the Android operating system are two different systems. Android applications only work on Android. They only work on the tablets.
To change that?
Are there plans to change that?
What do you mean change it? So they're different operating systems. So the way that you program for a tablet is not the way that you program for a Chromebook, or not the way that you program for a laptop. So the way that it installs the application and runs the application and formats the data, they're just different because they're different operating systems, different feature formats, so they're different. I think there's a question in the back.
To the use of Chromebooks, so.
Yeah, hold on.
Right. So there are a lot of districts that have invested a lot of money into Chromebooks. So
What is Google? Is Google just going to forget about those users?
Oh, no, none. The Chromebooks are not going to invest in the Chromebooks, and by far, Chromebooks are right now more used than Android tablets. We're not saying that Android tablets are better than Chromebooks, so they should replace Chromebooks. Actually, Chromebooks are better for a multitude of things, including part testing, including kind of writing essays, content creation, using kind of typing. Chromebooks they're different device than tablets, right? So I wouldn't say that in a classroom, tablets are going to replace the laptop or laptop is going to replace the tablet. They're just different devices depending on what you're trying to do. So by no means are you trying to get rid of Chromebooks or stop programming Chromebooks. Chromebooks are definitely what we continue to invest in, and more manufacturers are coming out with new devices.
for Stephen? Stephen, I have a question. I'm helping districts navigate Park and device, and there's a lot of conversation around, is it worth investing in large quantities of Chromebooks for Park? And I know you've invited us to the webinar, but can you kind of give us a 30,000-foot view of the Chromebook Park philosophy or approach and talk a little bit about that partnership with Park?
Yeah. So once again, I strongly encourage people to attend the webinar, but beyond that, I think actually Chromebooks are basically the ideal device for Park. And the reason why I say that is because you have the management console for Chromebooks, which makes it really easy for you to deploy 30 devices or 3,000 devices. You can scale up really easily. You don't have to worry about the management of devices. And then you can really easily lock down all the devices so that they can only access the Park testing website, the Park testing web tool, and they can't go anywhere else. So instead of having to spend a lot of time going device by device to set policies, you can push out all the policies for testing through the control panel. And what you're actually seeing a lot is this is happening in New Jersey. So New Jersey is moving forward with Park. So they're starting the pilots, and they're moving forward with Park as early as next year. And school districts in New Jersey are buying thousands of Chromebooks to deploy to their school districts to get ready for Park. And I think the great thing about the Chromebook is it's not just a device for Park, right? So we didn't create this device just to be a testing device or just to be a Park device. But it's great to get into the hands of students for them to get to their online resources, for them to get access to the web, for them to do web quests and collaboration, and really utilize the technology in a way that can transform learning. So I think you get this double added benefit. So not only is it great for this immediate need that you have to do, which is online testing, but you can also really use them to change curriculum and change the way that your students interact with technology and learning.
Specifically, I mean, I have a very specific question that may not mean anything to anyone, but if you're not that involved in Park, but the issue that has come up is this idea that the student response file saves locally and that there's no ability to save that redundant copy of the student response file to the cloud for obvious reasons. Do you see any change to that in the future so that there is a redundant file storage for that student response file in Park?
I have not heard of that issue. I can check with my product manager team, who's actually working very closely with Park. So we're in constant talking with Park because Park is such a big part of what school districts are concerned with right now. I haven't heard about the redundant file issue, but let me check with my kind of product team and I'll get back to you.
It's not unique to Chrome. It's any mobile device. The iPads have the same issue because if you're on a desktop or a laptop, you can have a redundant share on your network. So if the device fails, there's the redundant share for the student responses. It's not a huge deal, but it's a question we're getting a lot.
Got it. And the other reason why I think Chromebooks are a much better park testing device than any other device is because, so if you use a tablet for park testing, then you're going to need to get peripherals. So you're going to have to get Bluetooth keyboards or Bluetooth mice or all these other extra things that may fail during the testing, right? And the great thing about a Chromebook, beyond that it comes with a keyboard, is you can have multiple people sign in and out. So you can have a class come into the cafeteria or wherever you're doing your testing, have all the users sign in, take their park test, sign out, and you'll just have a constant stream of people signing in and signing out. So you don't actually need to go to a one-to-one device if you're just looking for devices for park.
Any other questions for Stephen? Oh, I knew if I waited long enough. Wait. So, Stephen, the question is, what kind of data are you collecting when you troll the domain? Troll?
I'm not sure.
What?
I'm not sure I understand the question. What's the question?
What sort of information are you collecting that's inside the domain?
Oh, okay, so after education, what information do we collect? So the information we collect is the information that you put into our domain. And what I mean by that is, so we don't ask you for any information that you are not putting into the domain, right? So you can put ages if you want. You can put what grade they are if they want. You can put the documents in there if you want. So all the information that you put into our system is the information that you put in. But that being said, it goes back to our privacy and security policies where we don't share your data with anyone. We don't use your data for advertising. We're legally bound to make sure that we protect our data the same way that we protect our corporate data. And I think the really, really key piece is in our contract, we talk about all your data is considered confidential information. So we safeguard your data as if it's the highest security confidential information. The same standards that we do for government data, for business data, is the same standards we do for education data.
There was a question before about the management console for Chromebooks and whether the it's only for 3 years or indefinitely for the life of the
Right. So the management console used to be licensed for 3 years, but we heard this morning that maybe it's for the lifetime of the device. Can you provide some clarity around that?
Yeah, so it is 3 years. So we write 3 years because that's kind of a standard that you have to do a certain set amount of time for a licensing perspective, from a legal perspective. But that being said, these devices are for as long as the device works, as long as you can use the device. The management console will sit on the device and you will be able to push policies to it.
Question. That leads me to a question. Do you recommend to districts, what is the replacement cycle strategy for a Google Chromebook?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it actually really depends. So that's actually not so much on the Google side, because we're creating the management console, we're creating the software. We're not creating the hardware, right? And the hardware is what is going to fail, not the software. So that being said, what I've mostly seen from manufacturers is they say kind of a 3 to 5 year cycle. Honestly, I can see it lasting longer because there are less moving parts in the Chromebook, which means less areas for it to fail. So I would say kind of a 3 to 5 year kind of makes sense.
Great. We have a question. Hold on.
Yep.
So, am I on? So the question is, if you have a device that fails after a year and you get another replacement device, can you use the original management console license or do you have to buy a new license with the device?
So it depends what happened, right? So if the device failed because it was the device that was the problem, then you would get another license. That's fine. But if you had a device stolen, or let's say a student broke it, that it was the fault of the district, then you would need to get a new license.
Any other questions? Okay, I think. Oh, we've got one more over here. So, Stephen, the question is, are you mining the domain data for your own research and development?
I guess, can you clarify what you mean? So I think there are a lot of questions on mining, there are a lot of questions on indexing, there are a lot of questions on what do we do with the data, and I think that goes back into we don't use it for any advertising, we don't use it for any purposes beyond providing the services. We do use it, though, to improve the services as well. So what I mean by that is, if you are using your Gmail and you constantly, sending emails with the word attachment in your email, and we figure out that a lot of people send attachments in their email and they forget to add their attachment. Then we create a feature that says, if you have the word attachment in your email, then it'll remind you to add the attachment. Right? So that's a new feature request we came up with that was based on user feedback and us understanding how you use your system. So we do use your data to improve the services just as we do use it to provide the services.
So I think that the answer to the question is yes. We do look at user activity and use to improve the service, which I would suggest is research and development.
Yeah, and I would also clarify that it's anonymized and it's aggregated, so it's not individual users, but it's users on the whole scale. So all Gmail users, all Google Drive users.
Anything else before we close this segment? Okay, join me in thanking Stephen for joining us today.
And really excited to see just the movement and interest of what Google is doing in education. So thank you so much for your time.
Great, thank you, Stephen. I'm sure we'll be inviting you back. This will be a repeat event.
Sounds good. Bye, guys.
Stephen, don't hang up. Just wait 1 second.
Okay.